This episode of Psych of Play is presented by Crunchyroll. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know that this is Daryl Talks Games, not Daryl Talks Anime. But if you paid close attention, you'll also know that I am a huge fan of anime from random little edits that I throw into my videos and my poor attempts to flex my Japanese. And 99% of the time, the other 1% being when I randomly dream about Your Lie in April again, I consume anime on Crunchyroll. 45 million users, over 2 million subscribers, your #1 source for your favorite anime and manga. If you've never watched anime before, or are a seasoned viewer like myself, by signing up at crunchyroll.com/DarylTG, or by simply clicking the link in the description, you can try Crunchyroll Premium ad-free for free for 14 days. Plenty of time to dip your toes into, or binge, shows like Demon Slayer, Dr. Stone, Season 3 of Attack on Titan, and one of my personal favorites, Tower of God. What this show does well is plant little seeds early on that really make you speculate what lies ahead without overcooking things or making it obvious what will happen next. The strangely foreboding promise of what lies atop the tower and the mystery behind each character's reason for craving that prize makes this show wildly bingeable, and it's why it has me chomping at the bit to watch the next episode. And thanks to Crunchyroll, that bad boy will come hot off the presses. We're talking new episodes available as soon as 1 hour after they air in Japan. Crunchyroll streams anime at 1080p HD and is available on all of your devices, game consoles, phone, tablet, PC. You name it! So be sure to use my link, crunchyroll.com/DarylTG, or the link in the description so you don't miss out on 14 days free of Crunchyroll Premium. Let me know what anime you're currently watching in the comments, and a sincere thank you to Crunchyroll for sponsoring this video. Now then, we need to have a talk, because we have a major problem in gaming. And I think it can best be described by the typical response to this question: is what you're about to see cheating? What do you say? Is this r/shower thoughts levels of imagination, or a hefty slice of cheese missed by the developers? What about something like this? Or like this? Regardless of what your answer is, all three of these get the job done. It delivered our strangely handsome elf boy to the end of the shrine, though contents may have shifted during transit. And for those of you that say this is cheating, I'd like to ask, why? Why does it feel that way? Don't get me wrong, I totally feel like it is too. I mean, the developers went out of their way to craft a carefully designed dungeon, and by skipping that part altogether, you're denying yourself the chance to experience this level to the fullest. By doing this, you're giving up on the correct solution, the one the devs wanted you to arrive at. And that's a bad thing, right? The intended way to go about this shrine, as it turns out, is actually pretty interesting. You have to time a bomb explosion just right off this catapult to trigger a switch that opens the next room. Building off that in the next room, you time 2 explosions, one to launch the catapult, and the other to trigger the next switch for the next door. And in the third room, you get the grand finale, where hitting the switch once will raise these platforms to the exit, but will lock the door. So you have to somehow activate the switch again from right by the exit, which calls for activating the switch once with the first bomb to get to the door, and once again with a second well-timed explosion. It's a solid little puzzle. And you get the impression when playing that there is a correct solution. The pieces are laid out clearly before you in order, and build upon one another in such a way that it's obvious that there is a right and wrong way to solve this. But the Secret Stairway Shrine, on the other hand, is a different story. My first ever video on this channel broke down this Ma-Alaya shrine, and you definitely should not go watch it. It's not that well done. I was but a guppy then. But in it, I talk about a form of cognition that we all have, divergent thinking, the ability to see multiple solutions or possibilities to a problem, to think laterally, the capacity to ignore the instructions that come with your Legos and build what you want, the type of thought that sees things in an unconventional light. Ma-Alaya is a question with multiple answers. There is no preconceived method like we see in the 2-bomb shrine. Instead, the setup is deceptively basic and non-specific. It invites you to just try some stuff. It welcomes you to cheese it. So solutions like this, or like this, are completely okay because it's very tough to say what the correct method is. In fact, if you go searching for walkthroughs, you're likely to find a different way to solve it in each one. And this is a beautiful thing. Problems that encourage divergent thinking encourage your own experience and your own creativity, as opposed to coming up with the same conclusion as everyone else. But here's the issue. Some people would view this open-ended approach to a puzzle as uncomfortable. In his book Breakpoint and Beyond, Professor George Land describes a longitudinal study he performed with 1,600 kindergartners, ages 4 to 5, where each child was given a test of creativity. It was the same test he developed for NASA engineers to gauge how well someone might be able to find multiple uses and create new innovative solutions with available materials. For reference, only around 2% of the average adult scores genius level on this test. However, for the kindergartners tested, 98% of the 1,600 scored at a genius level. Startling as this is, what's even more startling is how that percentage changes as students age. At 10 years old, only 30% of the very same students scored at a genius level, and at age 15, it had dropped to 12%. There's a problem in gaming, and it may be kin to a problem in education. On my original video about Ma'alaya, there was a comment that really stuck with me. Honestly, this shrine made me feel more uncomfortable than anything. I've been conditioned by most games into thinking that the developer had one or two predetermined solutions to any given problem, so when I used balloons on that platform, I felt like I was giving up on the solution the devs must have left somewhere. I think it's fair to say that we've all felt this sensation at some point ourselves. After all, you're sharper than Lara Croft's jawline. You know that someone made this puzzle and therefore made a way to solve it. You didn't really stumble upon a random cave that needs trailblazing. This knot was designed to be unraveled. Figuring out how to untie that knot uses divergent thinking as well as the other thought process, convergent thinking, the ability to narrow down, improve, test, and apply ideas until the correct answer is found. Both forms of thought are necessary for problem solving in general, but open-ended puzzles rely much more heavily on divergent thinking, whereas those with only one or two solutions rely much heavier on convergent thinking, since fewer ideas will actually get the job done. And most puzzles and games nowadays are designed with fewer answers. They rely less on abundant creative approaches and more on the player's understanding of the mechanics and materials presented. There are one or two methods intended by the devs, and it's rigorously playtested to ensure that you can't brute force it or work your way around it. A good example is this part in Inside, where you have to climb the rope to get in, start the machine, figure out that you need to knock down this block to climb up, let the chicks in, understand how the machine works, discover that the chicks are slower than you, get a head start on them, and then with good timing, launch your future Popeye's chicken tenders into the crate to knock it down. One solution, airtight design, not easily cheesable. Solving it means you fully understand what the devs were trying to get you to do. And this is great if you want to create what Mark Brown calls the catch, a logical contradiction in the puzzle that requires you to recontextualize how you're thinking about said puzzle. If you, the player, can find a method that avoids you having the intended aha realization altogether, then you've kind of spoiled the fun, even if you did technically solve the problem. Designing levels like this is fine, and look, the proof is in the pudding. Some truly innovative games have been built this way, but there is a residual effect of narrowing down the possible solutions so low. So I might be alone on this, but have you ever been in a math class, done an assignment or an exam, got your grade back, and even though you got credit for having the right answer, you got points deducted because you didn't show your work, or even better, the steps you took to get to your answer were quote-unquote wrong? Or have you ever found what you thought was a perfect way to go about a puzzle in a game, only to find out that the game wasn't ready for you to do this part yet, or that it wants you to trigger an event first, or your idea makes logical sense, but it felt like the devs were saying, not like that? In all of these cases, the intent behind telling the player or the student no, you're solving this wrong is to get them to notice a correct method, the way the curriculum or the developer would prefer you do things. Anything else is either cheating or not following instructions. And it's because of this repeated conditioning that an open-ended puzzle or an open-ended assignment can be so intimidating. Because it becomes less about how do I answer this question, and more about what do you want me to do, what's correct here. This is the problem in gaming and the problem in education, at least one of them. Divergent thoughts often can't be explored to their fullest extent because experimentation and ideas are so often met with no, that'll never work, or do it like this instead. And this is why Dr. George Land believes that children so quickly lose their ability to think creatively as they grow. School curriculum historically is against collaboration because that's cheating, against experimentation because students need to learn a tried and true method, against rabbit holes because teachers are on a time crunch to cover the full curriculum before the end of the year. Dr. Land has proposed that creativity is stifled because we are teaching children to try and use divergent and convergent thinking at the same time, which doesn't work. Coming up with several ideas and immediately judging and criticizing them because the right method is right here. Pay attention. He argues that exploring ideas is important for cognitive development, whether you had a good idea or a bad idea, because you need to discover why it was a good idea or a bad idea. You may or may not agree with Dr. Land's stance here, but I do think that there is some truth in what he is saying. And that's why personally, I'm so keen on open puzzles with multiple solutions, because they will allow you to explore your ideas to their furthest conclusions, learn from your mistakes, improve your understanding, and grow your ability to think creatively without the need to wonder if you're missing the intended strategy. Now, let me pump the brakes real quick. Education is not and will probably never be perfect, and neither will game design. Humanity is more industrious and creative today than we've ever been in history, at least since the reptiles took over America, so I don't think this is life or death. Also, that was a joke. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, except for the events that transpired on this day. In reality, education is effective. I mean, after all, I didn't learn how to read by just playing with magnet letters on the refrigerator all day. And although sometimes creative thought does get stifled a bit because there is another predetermined method the devs or even teachers want us to learn, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that method. In fact, taking the time to learn it is usually a rewarding experience and is worth knowing. But I certainly think there is something to be said about our reliance as a society and as gamers on a quote-unquote correct answer. As we've seen, it can cause a puzzle that is supposed to be a good way to flex your craftiness, and instead cause you to feel anxiety because there is no right answer in the back of the book. And if 98% of 4-year-olds start with NASA levels of potential ingenuity, then we may want to take a step back and revisit how we're teaching these kids, which, to be fair, I'm sure is being done. This is an old study. If you have kids or will have kids soon, maybe buy them some Legos, but give them the instructions after they've tried things out themselves a bit. Let them play some World of Goo. Let them play some Minecraft, which is the magnum opus of Opus Magnums. In fact, that's the perfect segue. Let's wrap this bad boy up with a psychological study on Minecraft. Okay, let's play a little game. You want to play? Yeah, you want to play. I like you. You're a daring little chicken. I'm going to begin explaining this study, and you see if you can guess where it's going and what the results are going to be. Sound good? Okay, you excited? I'm excited. Okay, let's do this. Let's go. There was a study done in 2019 where 352 undergraduates at Ohio State were split into 3 groups. The first group watched a TV show for 40 minutes. The second group played a racing game for 40 minutes. And the third group played Minecraft for, you guessed it, 40 minutes. Afterwards, all groups were tested for creativity using measures developed for the study. So, which group do you think demonstrated the most creativity? If you said the Minecraft group, you're right. They scored higher than the other 2 groups. Minecraft makes you creative. You win, sort of. I lied. House wins. Papa plays by his own rules. You see, there was actually a 4th group who also played Minecraft, but were told to be creative when they played, while the 3rd group was simply told to just play after a brief tutorial. And surprisingly, the 4th group, who was instructed to be creative as they played, were significantly less creative than the group who was simply allowed to play. It's almost as if the instructions placed conditions or expectations on the player's ingenuity. Dr. Doug Gentile, who led the study, had this to say about the findings.
So it's not just that Minecraft can help induce creativity. There seems to be something else about, actually having the freedom to be as creative as we want. Now, we don't really know why we found this effect with the instruction. Maybe creativity is kind of like a muscle, and they tried really hard in the game and then it was worn out by the time they got to the alien drawing task. But it does look very similar to much of the other game research that what you practice you can get better at, but in fact, how you do it might matter just as much.
Like the man said, we don't actually know what this means. More testing is definitely needed, but my guess is that the subjects demonstrated a little something that happens in psych research called demand characteristics, which is basically when you, a subject, think you've guessed what you're being tested for, and then change your behavior accordingly, even if it's subconscious. A good example is if you think you're being tested on your generosity. You may really skew your survey answers in your favor, out here looking like Nastina from Pokemon.
Isn't Nastina generous?
And I think in this study, a lot of the subjects wanted to be creative, but that expectation to fill a mold or be clever just got in their way. It's almost as if they were playing to fulfill what the researchers were looking for instead of simply playing the game. And I don't think it's absurd to assume that we experience something similar when we're looking for developer intentions instead of letting creativity flow. There is no one right way to create a puzzle, but it certainly seems that there is often only one way to solve them, for better or for worse. I've gathered you all here today not to start a beef with single solution design or a war against education, only to say that creativity will always be limited by our past experiences and by our expectations. And if expectations up front are that there is a right and wrong way to solve a problem, we will only ever look for what's correct instead of what is innovative. Even if there is truly only one valid method, I believe it's worth it to try and find a new path, to trailblaze a little bit, and if possible, find yourself some cheese in the name of creative thought. Another month and another Psych of Play in the books. My friends, as always, I can't thank you enough for being here and so consistently clicking on and interacting with all of my hard work. These past 3 months have been incredible for the channel, and it's all thanks to you and your support. Speaking of support, if you'd like to toss $1 or $2 my way on Patreon every month, you'll get exclusive access to bonus content streams, early access, and your name in the credits like you see here. A huge thanks to this month's patrons. You are truly my heroes and the backbone of this channel. And once again, thank you to today's sponsor, Crunchyroll. Please stay tuned for your regularly scheduled post-credit scene, and have a damn good one.
On one hand, some people will say violent video games cause school shootings. No, they don't. Or that games have no important effects. That's also not true.